Good afternoon, everybody.
Hold on to your butts because
Yeah,
we have a show for you that is 65 million years in the making.
and we
And
can't wait to talk
I'm
about
just
it.
going to go ahead and say it just to get it out of the way. We spared no expense on today's episode.
Yeah. More quotes to come and
Yes,
puns. Don't you
I
worry.
will. I will try to control myself best I can, but I
No,
can't make
don't.
any promises.
No, don't. No need for that. No need for that.
Hello,
So,
Larry.
yeah. So we are very excited to do this. Hello, Larry. Thanks for joining us, and we are looking forward to doing our deep dive. This is our first deep dive into any movie that
Hmm.
we've done. We've done a lot of ranking and discussing movies and had some movie news and stuff. But this is going to be fun. Get to really take a deep look into something into a franchise that we love.
Hmm. Indeed. This is a franchise that has been a part of my life. I did the math earlier. I had to sit down, got some paper out and some crayons, did the math, and this franchise, this movie has been a part of my life since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, fun
All
fact.
right.
So
Yep. I was in that same range somewhere because I can't remember
mhm.
what our age difference is. So I was in there somewhere too.
Yeah, very close.
In that area somewhere around there. So Gary, so what'd you watch over the weekend? What you got going on, man?
So what I've been watching, I've been doing binge watching two things. As I said last week, the wife and I are binge watching. We've been quarantined. We have 2 days left.
Mm-hmm.
For the past 2.5 weeks, we've been binge watching Friday Night Lights, a tremendous NBC show.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on season 4 of that, and I, on my own time, have been binge watching The Twilight Zone on Netflix,
Oh,
the original from the 50s, not the new
yes.
one.
So good.
I hear the new one's trash, so I haven't even bothered. But yeah, so I am on season 2 of that, and surprisingly, it holds up incredibly well. You
Yes, it
know,
does.
and so I've had an absolute blast watching that.
Good, good.
So, how
Yeah.
about you?
So over the weekend, um, Katie was going around looking for a desk. Her mom was in town, so she can work from home and all that kind of stuff. So I stayed home with the girls and we watched Lego Batman. And
Oh
not my
yes.
suggestion, they brought it up. They said we want to watch Lego Batman,
Oh.
and then so I was very excited for that. And then, but check this: I tried to look it up on Movies Anywhere because I was trying to be too lazy to go,
Hmm.
get the disc out,
Hmm.
and I couldn't find it. I'm like, where the heck is
Oh.
it? So Sayla, she goes and grabs the disc. I'm like, here's the digital copy. How's it not in here? So I entered the digital copy. I forgot to do
Oh. Okay.
it.
So you didn't.
So
Oh, it just had there. Okay.
yeah, I just sat there. So we got it. We
Mhm.
watched it. Had lots of laughs, and it
Oh,
was
great.
just great movie as always.
Were you so proud when they suggested that?
Incredibly proud.
I'm proud of them as well. What a great movie that is.
Yeah, I was like, hey, what do
That's
you guys
so
want to
great.
watch? I pulled up Disney Plus, and then
Hmm.
Sayla's like, hey, how about Lego Batman? And then Nala and Jade like, yeah, Batman. I was like, done.
Nice.
So
No argument here. I
yeah,
had
no
a
argument here.
similar moment a few weeks ago when both kids wanted to watch Big Hero 6,
Mm,
and we sat and we watched it, and I was just like, yeah. Um,
yeah,
but
makes us
they
so
they
proud.
yeah, the kids haven't. Carter loves Batman, but I just can't get him to watch anything other than Mickey Mouse right now.
Mm,
So he hasn't suggested Batman yet.
yeah, he'll get
So
there. He'll get there.
yeah.
So
So
can we just have a moment of silence for Larry? He just got his
Larry,
wisdom teeth out.
yeah,
Godspeed, sir.
Larry,
Godspeed.
yes, Godspeed to you, Larry. The dentists have been after my wisdom teeth for years, and they hadn't gotten them yet. But I wish you well.
Stand firm, sir.
Yeah.
Stand firm. And here's Leah.
Hey, Leah,
Hey,
how are you?
thanks for
Welcome
joining
to
us.
the show.
Glad you're here.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for watching.
Yes. Yeah, and Larry also tells us he loves this movie, so we are
Larry,
excited.
we have something in store for you, sir.
That's right. So we can't wait. So Gary, how about you go ahead and introduce this series, what we're trying to do with
All right.
this, and get the
So
movie.
we're going to be beginning today. We're going to be doing a deep dive throughout the franchise of Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Every single movie: Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park: The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World. Excuse me there,
Mm-hmm.
and Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. And then I guess at some point we'll do maybe a preview of the next one coming out too. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, what's it called? Dominion? Is that what they're
Dominion.
calling it?
Yeah, it's called
Dominion.
Dominion. Yeah.
But today we are beginning with a deep dive into the original Jurassic Park from 1993.
Oh yeah, and this is one that definitely changed the game. One that it was just huge, and then of course Steven Spielberg at this time,
Hmm.
anything he touched was
Hmm.
just gold.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so you had that going on. I mean, there's just plenty going on there. But before we dig in, we have a question here from Larry.
Oh, question. Yeah.
What do you guys like, Lego Batman or Lego Movie more?
Oh, that's an easy one. Lego Batman for me.
Yeah, I say I think it's because of the Batman part. I think that's why I like Lego Batman more.
Hmm.
I love the Lego movie. Brought us something different. It was just a fantastic movie. But
Hmm.
then they
Oh
did
yeah.
the Batman thing, so I just think
Hmm.
Batman was better.
Yeah.
So, but so to go on, here we go. In case, listen, because we have to do this the right way. We have to do it. We have to show the classicness of everything.
Hmm.
Guys, check this out. Look at that. Look at
Yeah.
that
Boom.
poster.
Yeah. Classic.
The classic Jurassic Park poster. First of all, I know this isn't in our notes, Gary, but I kind of wanted to start off. Can we just talk about this poster for a second?
Yeah.
As part of our deep dive here. This is long before, like don't get me wrong, like I love a lot of movie posters now,
Hmm.
but this
Hmm.
is long before everyone felt the need to stick every character that was in a movie onto a movie poster.
Yep.
And it just looked like this big like kaboom of nonsense just exploded. Um,
Yeah.
and so like this is back when it was just like look at the simplicity, the logo,
Hmm.
like the care that
Hmm.
just to me went into this poster. And it's like
Yep.
this is all it needed. You didn't need to see the
Yep.
dinos, you didn't need to see nothing. Here it
Hmm.
is. It's about this
Right there.
park.
That is
Yeah.
iconic. You're walking through a theater. And remember back in the day when we were growing up, Efren, that's how we knew movies were coming out. We went to the
Yep.
theater. We didn't have, I'm sound like an old man. We didn't have YouTube or all this other stuff. We saw a
Mm-hmm.
poster. We saw a trailer in the theater. You see this poster in the lobby, you're going to go see this movie. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be much. Right there, the logo, a little quote there at the bottom, Steven Spielberg film. I'm in.
Yep.
And it's such an iconic. And I'm very upset because it is such an iconic logo. And with the Blu-ray releases, DVD releases we've gotten, they've changed this
Mm-hmm.
so much. Even my copy, I have it. I cannot stand the cover
Yeah.
of
That's
it.
the
But
T
this
Rex
is
running, right? With the car flipped over.
yeah, the
Yeah.
T-Rex and Alan Grant with the flare. It's a great scene, but it doesn't need to be on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me something simple. Less is more. Boom,
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is like you said, like iconic. Like you see this logo anywhere. You see it spoofed all the
Hmm.
time, which
Yeah.
something's iconic when it gets spoofed consistently.
Hmm.
And like people just know this. They understand this. I mean, even the font for the Jurassic Park, like just everything about it. Like it was like when you were a kid, you saw this logo on something. You're like, what is it? Like Jurassic Park
Hmm.
stuff? Shirt, toys,
Hmm.
what is it? Like you just want to see it. I mean,
Yep.
it is just something that just completely sticks out. And this is what I want future movie because I'm sure they're watching us. For you future
Hmm.
marketing people, look at this and learn from it.
Yep.
Like you can make it iconic. The most iconic logos are the ones that are most simple. Nike,
Yep.
McDonald's,
Nike. McDonald's.
Adidas, Jurassic Park.
Hmm.
All right, so
Jurassic Park. Yep.
let's keep it simple, people.
I compare this to the original 1989 Batman poster. Just all
Hmm.
it had was the Batman logo right there. That's all you needed.
That's
You
all
know.
you needed. That's
Um,
all you needed.
yeah.
So
But classic.
yes, classic. That's all you need, and it's beautiful. So I just want to take a moment to recognize a good movie poster because that's part of the movie world, and
It
it's
is.
part of what we love. We have movie posters in our
Hmm.
office, in our homes,
Hmm.
so we might as well talk
Hmm.
about it.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
no.
Thank God.
Larry does say he doesn't think Fallen Kingdom is that good, and guess what,
Okay.
Larry? On that day, we will discuss Fallen Kingdom.
We will discuss
So I
that.
hope you
Yeah.
can join us that
Hold
day.
hold that thought, sir. Hold that
Yes,
thought.
hold that thought because we will
Hmm.
get to that. Um, so yeah, so there's that awesome poster I just wanted to discuss a little bit.
Hmm.
So Gary, how about you give us your history of Jurassic
Okay.
Park?
So, like I was saying earlier, I was 5 years old when this came out. This came out in 1993. I remember when this movie came out. This was the first epic movie that I remember experiencing.
Hmm.
Everyone was talking about it, and I was 5 years old. What I mean by everyone, my parents, my grandparents, my neighbors, friends in the neighborhood.
Right.
This movie was everywhere. That logo was all over the place. You go through Walmart, you see the toys,
Hmm.
and all I knew was it was about dinosaurs, and I had to go see this movie. I remember begging, begging to go see this movie in the
Mm-hmm.
theater. And when I think about my early theater experiences, three movies come to mind. Actually, four. Batman Returns, which was my first.
Mm-hmm.
The Lion King, and this movie. And I absolutely begged to go see it. I remember some neighbors went to go see it, and they told my mom that they thought I could handle it.
Mm-hmm.
At 5 years old, they told us a little about a few scenes. So we went to go see this in the theater. Just a really quick story about that. We went on, my brother and I, my younger brother, we went on a date with my mom to go see this movie. A guy we saw for the first time that day, and we never saw him again after that night. Um, so we'll just leave it that there. But so we went to go see this movie. Remember how excited? I remember talking about how excited I was to go see it. In the middle of the movie, we had to leave.
Mm.
Um, Something about my mom's shoe broke. I don't understand what happened. And we got up and we left the theater and went to the store next door to buy her a new pair of shoes.
Oh,
And we came back and I had no idea what was going on. And I was very upset.
oh
Um,
man!
and
They
was
couldn't have
very
waited till
bothered.
after the movie to get the shoes.
To this day, I don't understand why we did that. And I mean, we left when I remember vividly when the cars stop and the power goes out. We
Mm-hmm.
come back and everything had gone to heck, and I
Oh
had no idea
man.
what happened. I know that, and it was just like, so my theater experience was not great for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I do remember it being probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
I had the toys growing up. My favorite action figure that I had a Dr. Alan Grant action figure,
Mm.
and it was my favorite toy. I lost it at some point. And we had some T Rexes and
Yeah.
Jeeps and stuff, and we'd play Jurassic Park in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this
You had to
movie,
play it outside in the backyard. You had to.
you had to. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
didn't understand. I thought maybe dinosaurs were still around. I didn't understand that they weren't there. So we'd go in the woods and play Jurassic Park, and I always had to be Dr. Alan Grant,
Mm.
aka the guy in the hat. That's what I called him as a kid. He was the guy in
Yeah.
the hat. He was the coolest in my opinion.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, for me, I remember kind of similar, like everyone, friends, school, baseball team, everything, neighborhood. Everyone was talking about it. They loved. They're like, "This is so great. This is so awesome. You have to watch it." Because me growing up, I was always obsessed with dinosaurs. Um, I had the dinosaur bed sheets and all that kind of stuff, different kind of toys. I've always been obsessed with it. And so when this movie came out, I had to go see it. Had to go see it, and we had to wait. Like we had to wait a while. We didn't have at this time we didn't have a whole lot of money, so going to the movie theater wasn't like it was like had to be special, had to be planned out, and so we ended up waiting like 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and so we had to wait a little. I think it was like right before it left theaters is when we finally got to go see it. And then I remember watching it, and it was just that. It was just. I remember as a kid though, like the first like I guess kind of half of it or first act, I was just like, this is so boring. Where are the dinosaurs? You know,
Yeah,
which is
we're
which
on
was
the
kind
dinosaurs.
yeah, which was
Yeah.
like okay because even Ian Malcolm was like, "Are you gonna have dinosaurs on this dinosaur tour, right?" Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yes." Like, where
I
are they?
really hate I really hate that man.
Yeah,
That always cracks me up.
yeah.
You know. But
So I was just like, "Where's it at?" Then once it got started with the T Rex stuff, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome."
mhm.
And of course, it was just everything that I had hoped for. The music, oh man, I like
Oh.
the theme song was just so
Mhm.
iconic. It ran in my head constantly. And then I remember like we went to the circus. Don't kill me if you're anti-circus. I don't even think it's around anymore. But
I was
we went to
terrified of
this.
clowns. That's why I didn't go.
Yeah, but we went and they had this show with like they had their show when the animals doing stuff. They played the Jurassic Park theme song, and I was just like,
Oh, nice.
yes, this is so good. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. So it just became everything. I had tons of dinosaur toys, of course. I had some Jeeps and people and
Mm.
stuff who had to die. So there was those things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like you heard last week from my sister,
Mhm.
they also terrorized Barbie Dreamhouse and all those kinds of things.
That's great.
Uh, so yeah, so everything about this movie, it really was like just at the time. I remember at the time my dad talking about how good the effects and the use of robots were. And like I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
understand it as a kid, obviously. And he was just talking about how like he's like this movie changes everything. This movie changes everything
Mhm.
because he grew up, he saw the original Star Wars and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So we saw how sound and how special effects and everything kept changing over the years. But he was like, this is just insane. Like the dinosaurs are so real, and
Mhm.
that's what made it. And it still holds up today, which is the thing is
Oh,
to me
absolutely.
and
Mhm.
just how it still holds up. And
Hmm.
so it just, it was just one of those things. Like it changed everything. You can watch it today, and it still doesn't
Hmm.
matter. Like it's just such a great
Yeah.
movie, and it's still all the sequels. I will say this, and we'll talk about it later, but I will say this: none of the sequels I feel have been able to live up still to this
Mm-mm.
movie.
No,
So,
no, not at all. And this is the movie. Got people from our generation, around our same age, that love movies.
hmm
When we talk about movies that we grew up loving, that started this movie always gets brought up.
hmm
And I think it's because of that. The story is it's an incredible movie, which we'll talk about towards the end, is
yeah,
how we rate it and stuff. But it is amazing to me because I had it on this morning,
hmm
and just watching it, freshening up on it. It's amazing me how well it does hold up.
yeah,
With the robotics and the way the dinosaurs look. And I think, and I don't want to trash the sequels, but this one looks better than all the sequels, including the second one. There's
hmm
just something about the way this movie looks, the way the dinosaurs look. I mean, it could, I don't think we would be talking about it as well today if it didn't hold up. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's just, it holds up incredibly well.
Yeah, and I think what it is, it's like, and I know we're kind of already discussing like why we love it and stuff. I mean, like
Hmm.
because it is like it just captured the imagination of children, as we
Hmm.
were. It captured the imagination of adults and what could happen and
Hmm.
what the future could look like.
Hmm.
And I think what it is just because the story was so simple. And I
Hmm.
think that's the great thing about the beginning of like when you have a original film, it
Hmm.
usually is pretty simple at the beginning. Like the ones that are hits, like Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
like it ends up being such a simple concept for the
Hmm.
most part. And it's just, they're not trying to throw tons of dinos at you. I think, like,
Hmm.
even though I know Steven Spielberg still did The Lost World, and
Hmm.
I, we'll talk about that next week some more. But like what you said, it still wasn't as good as the first one. But I
Hmm.
think because he's trying to have more dinos, make it bigger, make
Hmm.
it better. You know how sequels usually suffer from
Yeah.
bigger, better, louder, all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff, more action. With this
Hmm.
one, it just took its time. Even though as a kid it was like this is boring, but of course as an adult you realize the
Oh yeah.
storytelling, the setup, like not a single line I don't think that I can remember was wasted in this movie. Like
Not at
every
all. Go
anything.
ahead. Sorry.
No, go
I didn't
ahead,
mean
go
to
ahead. You
interrupt you.
got it.
We watched this at the cabins we went to a few weeks ago in the theater room, which was incredible, by the way. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I said it to you or Megan. I said I realized that. I said there is not a wasted line of dialogue in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everything sets up the next scene, and it is just put together so incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
And the pace of this movie is perfect.
Yeah.
And you said it best. I think a simple premise with a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
All these movies from that we grew up loving, that they have that in common. Jaws, for instance, a
Mm-hmm.
simple premise with a deeper meaning. And Jurassic Park, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, you watch as a kid, you want to see the dinosaurs, you want to get transported in that time, but you watch as an adult, and it holds up even better because you start to understand the story. you
Yeah.
know and yeah. So, and I think that's what the mark of a great movie, something you can enjoy as a kid because of how it looks, and then
Yeah.
something you can enjoy even more as an adult because you start to understand it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it just, yeah, it is just one of those movies where, and he was funny because like look at Steven Spielberg, right? He had Jaws,
Hmm.
simple premise, everything was very
Hmm.
simple, fantastic movie, and then he makes a sequel, try to do bigger, better. It
Hmm.
wasn't as good. Jurassic
No.
Park, same thing, sequel, bigger, better. But then
Hmm.
like Indiana Jones, first one.
Hmm.
I know him and Lucas, partnered on it and stuff. But it's like
Hmm.
great, simple first one, second one, okay. Like
Hmm.
so, he kind of has this track record of not doing the best with sequels. But when it
Hmm.
comes to that original simple story, that's where
Hmm.
this man shines,
Oh yeah,
and he's
yeah.
shown it over and over again.
Hmm. Yeah, he didn't do Jaws 2. They begged him to do it, but he didn't
Oh,
do
he
it.
didn't do it. Okay. Was
No,
he
he
was
was
he an
bad.
executive producer on it? I thought he
He
was.
did something on it
Okay.
probably, but he didn't direct it.
Okay.
Nobody. I don't want to get on a Jaws tangent. Nobody wanted to be in Jaws 2
Yeah.
from the original. Um,
Right.
but that's an episode for another time. But you're right though. That simple premise, those types of stories. Anytime you try to go bigger, better. It's just you lose that what is special about the originals, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So anything about it that you want to tell our viewers here that you didn't like about the movie? I know we're doing a lot of praising, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
with every movie still has its flaws. So what do you think,
Yeah.
Gary?
Well, okay. I watched it this morning for that reason alone because I wanted to see what is it about this movie that I may not like.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I keep coming back to, and maybe it's a nitpick, I don't know, but the kids in the movie annoy me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Uh, and the scene where, and maybe you can shed some light on this to me, but it's always bothered me when the T Rex shows up. He walks over the platform.
Mm.
You know, you
Mm-hmm.
might even know where I'm going with this.
Yep, I
And
do.
you know, he's a flat land, and then a few minutes later, there's a cliff. You
Yeah.
know, it's always kind of bothered me. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
and I was watching this morning. I was like, do they shift over? No, they don't. There's just where does it come from? You know.
Yeah.
But that's really it. I mean, the kids annoy me. The kids are so
Mm-hmm.
annoying. That lawyer guy runs away and gets eaten by a T Rex
Yeah.
just to get away from the kids.
He
You
kind of
know.
deserved it though.
Yeah.
Like he deserved
He
it.
left us. He left us.
Yeah.
But that's really it. I mean,
Yeah.
everything else about this movie I just love the pacing, the dialogue, the little nuances. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I heard something about this movie. Someone pointed out to me. I don't remember who it was, but the scene in the helicopter. I remembered it this morning where Alan Grant can't get the seatbelt on because he's got
Oh yeah.
two female,
Mm-hmm.
things, and he ends up tying it together.
Yeah.
And that's like a preview of Life Finds a Way because all the dinosaurs are female,
Oh yeah.
and that's kind of what happens throughout the movie. And yeah, so that's just But majority of this movie I absolutely love. If I was
Mm-hmm.
saying anything, it'd be the kids and that one little scene where there's a cliff.
Right. Yeah, like that cliff thing always kind of bothered me too. So I definitely understand you on that one.
Hmm.
Um, so like with the kids though, like I understand like the kids being annoying and stuff, but I guess for
Hmm.
me, what kind of made it like not as bad is because again, nothing's wasted, right? So
Yeah.
you know they were talking about how like the kids were going off there to be with grandpa because the parents are going through a divorce, and
Hmm.
so
Yep.
they're looking for attention. They're trying
Hmm.
to, you know,
Oh
oh
yeah.
here's our hero Grant, all that kind of stuff. So like
Hmm.
everything that they do, they're trying to impress him. While at the same time, you know, Dr. Sadler's trying to show Dr. Grant like it's okay to have kids. So they're
Oh
kind of
yeah.
shoved onto him. So you kind
Hmm.
of see again nothing wasted. You kind of see all that.
Yep.
So granted, the girl was dumb and like she made the dumbest decisions, but she's a kid. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
get that. But probably the big thing that always bothered me, and maybe this is just me looking into it, I don't know. But the thing that bothered me the most is that like the movie does this whole thing, like, and we'll talk about some of this later, but they do this whole thing like, of course, it was a bad idea to do dinos. This was doomed to fail from the beginning. You know, everyone when they're on there, like, how can you expect to control this? Something's bound to go wrong.
Hmm.
But nothing would have gone wrong if it wasn't for Dennis Nedry. Like, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't we talk about that more? That if it wasn't for
Hmm.
like if Dennis was happy,
Hmm.
okay, maybe you can say Hammond was too cheap, like he said
Hmm.
earlier, you know, like Dennis
Hmm.
said earlier. And he was too cheap and he made Dennis go through that and shut everything down and screwed up. But if that wouldn't have happened, even if Dennis
Hmm.
was happy and just quit his job and they found a different guy to take his place,
Hmm.
the park would have been just fine. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
nothing bad would have happened if it wasn't for Dennis. So it's just kind of like the fact that they
Yeah.
just to me that they just kind of act like, oh, this of course this happened. Of course, like
Hmm.
at the end, I'm not going to endorse your park, Dr. Hammett. So have I. Like I decided to. And it's just like
Yeah.
you know it was Dennis's fault. Like
Yeah.
why? Like
Newman.
the park
Yeah.
would have been fine. Your idea
Hmm.
would have worked if you just
Hmm.
didn't piss off that one coworker who had complete control of everything. Like
Yeah. Yeah. He spared no expense except for paying the guy that Um, but
like
yeah,
he says, our
he's
lives are in your hands and you have butterfingers? It's like,
yeah.
yeah. Why do you have
Yeah.
one guy? Like,
What? Yeah. Yeah. Give Samuel L. Jackson some of that responsibility, please.
yeah.
He can handle it. And that's another thing, and I agree to that. I do wish at some point, like he's the villain of this movie.
Hmm.
Newman,
Yeah.
and
Newman.
not the dinosaurs. I think that's some things people get confused. The dinosaurs just doing what
Yeah.
they were created to do.
Hmm.
Eat and take over.
Yeah.
And so and I think and I really would like the new movies to speak to that a little bit,
Hmm.
because I think what happened was bound to happen eventually.
Hmm.
Even but Dennis just gave it a head start by being the disgruntled employee and
Hmm.
shutting everything down. But you see in Jurassic World, I don't want to get too far ahead of us. Everything breaks down because they created something they couldn't control eventually.
Right.
I think what they're trying to do eventually it was bound to happen, and I hope they speak to that with this new movie coming out, that what we have was eventually
Hmm.
going to happen because you cannot control what you've created, you
Right.
know. But with this movie, in this case, you're right. He is the one.
Yeah.
He is the reason, you know.
Yeah.
If those fences don't go down, the dinosaurs are just eating goats and looking around, and
Hmm.
except for the raptors, who knows what they do,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But it's like, but you're right. But yeah, that would happen. But it's still, maybe you're like, you're just saying, like, it still requires human error, which would have happened
Hmm.
eventually. It still
Oh yeah.
requires human error for the park to fail.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
like, and that was the one thing that, granted, as old, I didn't notice that as a kid, but
No.
older, I was just kind of like why are we acting like him and such a bad guy? He's not the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, it
No.
was
He had
Dennis.
he had pure intentions, but maybe the human error is greed
Error.
on Dennis's part,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
that was
Yeah.
um,
But
but
then
yeah.
like Gabe here saying,
Hey.
the whole Dennis line makes you wonder if Hammond really spared no expense.
Yeah,
I mean,
except for that guy. Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah.
spared no expense except for right here,
Hmm.
which you
Hmm.
think would have been where you definitely spared no expense because
Yeah.
he holds everything. He holds all the cards.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I
You
mean, we
would
saw
think.
what happened.
Yeah, you would think you want to keep that guy happy for sure. Buy him all the Butterfingers he needs. You know,
Yeah.
keep those snack machines full for Newman there.
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
but
So that was my only thing really. Like when I look
yeah.
back, that I was just kind of like, probably could
Yeah.
have worked where so much wasn't wasted in lines and
Hmm.
scenery and all that. I wish they would have like dealt with
Something to
that a
that a
little
little
bit
bit.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt that was the one thing to me where they just like didn't explain away. Not like, cause like the whole cliff thing that kind of bothered me. Obviously older,
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. But when
Hmm.
you're trying to plan things out and have
Yeah.
your
Absolutely.
storyboard and stuff, so
Hmm.
some of that stuff is just kind of like, okay, you have movie mistakes, and that was one
Yeah.
of them. But
Yeah.
this just drove me nuts. Like it was just kind of like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like, come on, you wrapped up everything else so nicely. You could have wrapped this up
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. On that same note, I do wish the sequels would have spoke to that too a little bit.
Yeah,
To my knowledge, I don't think it has yet.
yeah.
Um,
I don't think it has
but as
yet.
far as the cliff goes, I think even in our best movies, we have the whole because movie moments.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is there a cliff? Not because movie, because the jeep had fallen a tree and they needed that scene.
Yeah,
And, because movie.
yeah. We
That's fine.
needed a movie. That's all there is to it.
Yep. Yep. That's
So,
fine.
yep.
So
So how do you think, like, if it was you, Gary, how do you think you would have responded to John Hammond?
okay.
Um, well, maybe just look at it from he brings you on the island,
Mhm.
and you're one of these guys, and you're just kind of
Mhm.
like, all right, like what do you think your response would have been?
I've been. Okay, buddy.
Again,
Carter's
welcome
back.
to live TV with Fame.
Yeah. um, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been really trying to think about it because I appreciate what John Hammond's doing. He has pure motives. He wants this to be a
Mhm.
theme park for people to come and enjoy and experience what his science has been able to do. But I honestly think because just how I am, I'm the guy. I don't ride big roller coasters. I
Mhm.
get freaked out easily about that kind of stuff. I would be like Ian Malcolm. I really would. I would. I
Yeah.
would. The line in this movie, in my opinion, the biggest line in this movie is you were so preoccupied. If you
Hmm.
could, you didn't think if you should. And I
Yeah.
think my response would be very similar to his. And where I just think that it's just too much power, too much control that man is not meant to have. And I
Hmm.
think that would be my response, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think I'd be more respectful than Ian Malcolm
Yeah.
was in the movie. I don't think I'm that obnoxious, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I think that would be my response is if
Yeah.
maybe a little bit too much power.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think I'd be more along the lines of Dr. Grant,
Hmm.
cautiously optimistic. Like
Hmm.
I can see the potential. Like this is awesome. Like I'd be personally excited as a dinosaur lover.
Hmm.
I'd be like, this is great. This would be something that I'd want to visit. A couple times.
Hmm.
This is just completely awesome. And then just seeing like all the stuff they have, I probably would have very easily been like, okay, cool. Like they have a lot of safety measures and all that kind of stuff. So I would have been very excited, but I still would have been like, kind of like what Dr. Grant said. How can you possibly know what to expect? Like,
Hmm.
because you're trying to have the right environment for them to live in. You're
Hmm.
trying to feed them instead of like he says when he's on the ride. Like he doesn't
He
want to
doesn't
be
want to
fed.
hunt.
He wants to hunt. Like
Hmm.
you can't suppress that many years of
Hmm.
of instinct and so
Hmm.
there's a lot of stuff where one could see there's plenty of ways for this to go wrong.
Yes.
but at the same time, it's like I really want it to work.
Yeah.
Like I want to
Yeah.
let me see it. Like he's like, let's see the park. Let's just see it. I want to
Hmm.
see if it works.
Hmm.
Um, and that's probably what I would have been at because it is like think about it. Like if it was real today, and hey, we have a park where we cloned live dinosaurs. Like
Hmm.
of course, like honestly, probably first thought might have been like,
Dinosaurs.
please tell me you just have a bunch of herbivores and maybe a T
Yeah.
Rex and call it that
Yeah.
and leave it at that. You
Yeah.
know.
Leave the Raptors alone,
Yeah,
please.
we
Y'all,
don't need the
come on.
raptors. We don't need all these other predators. Like, let's just
Oh
get the
man.
nice ones.
Yeah. That'd
But
be one thing.
yeah, but I'd be all about it. I'd be excited. But it'd be just
Yeah.
like, but you'd have to think of it as a zoo. Like, you
Hmm.
don't know what's going to happen. You might have
Hmm.
mistakes. You might have deaths. Someone might try to jump into the, you know, to the
Yeah.
environment and all that kind of nonsense. Um,
Yeah.
but
Which.
like, yet
Yeah.
I'd
I
want
mean.
it to happen. But you'd wonder how long it could last.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what I love about this movie also is I think it's a very realistic approach to how people would respond.
Hmm.
Like you go to that scene where they're at lunch and they're all talking about it, and the lawyer is so excited because all he sees is dollar signs. You know,
Yeah.
you got that guy in there, and isn't it amazing in movies like this? The money hungry person always dies first.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But so you got Dr. Sadler or Dr. Grant and Sadler on one side. They're thinking of the animals. They're thinking of the
Hmm.
dinosaurs. You know, they're saying things like, they've been dropped in the middle of this century. They don't know where they are, and they're going to
Yeah.
retaliate. You have plants that are toxic. They're thinking on the sides of that. Ian
Hmm.
Malcolm's thinking of the side of the danger of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like two sides here that agree that it's not necessarily the best idea, but their approach is very different. I
Yeah.
find that fascinating.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I mean it is because it's like if you think like Ian Malk, with his chaos theory stuff, he's like if anything
know.
bad can happen, it will happen.
Hmm.
Like what you're saying earlier, like it will eventually happen. And so you
Hmm.
are trying to, so we are trying to like figure
Uh,
out. Say hi. So we are trying to figure out like, will this work? Like, is this going to happen? No, just go. Um, and so yeah, so just trying to figure that out, and it's just like he's thinking everything's going to happen because he can't predict anything, which he's right in a lot of ways, especially for something that we have nothing scientific to back up and to like look back to and say here's
hmm.
what's happened before. No, you started something new. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Um, and the
life
same,
finds a way.
yeah, life finds a way. And
Hmm.
then like
And
you just said with Grant and Sadler and stuff, like there's just
hmm.
a lot more to it. And they almost set it up like you did all this without the help of professionals.
Hmm.
And now the professionals here and we're not so sure about this. We could have warned you ahead of time.
Yeah,
Um, so
yeah, yeah. If they don't even know, like that one guy talking about the Raptors. What is his name? He's one of my favorite characters in the movie. But I can't remember his name. The guy
mhm.
that's his job is to take care of the Raptors, and he's
Yeah.
just talking about how
Clever
smart they
girl.
are. Yeah,
Yeah.
clever girl. And he's like, they should all be destroyed, every single one of them.
Yeah.
He's talking about just how problem solving. They problem solve. They do this, and they don't. They none of them know exactly what they have, and they're shocked by
Hmm.
the intelligence. And like I love that scene. Going back to how this movie sets up perfectly, where they're looking at the raptor in the ground on the computer, and he
Hmm.
tells that kid what a raptor does and how
Yeah.
terrifying they are, and how they'll just how smart they are. And then later on in the movie, when they're looking at the egg, he's like, "What type of breed is this?" And the guy's like, "Velociraptor." And he just looks up, "You bred raptors." And he's
Yeah.
just that whole is like, man, because he's that scene right there encapsulates all that.
Yeah.
The he because up to that point, Dr. Grant is all about this. He's amazed and wait a
Yeah.
minute, there's raptors on this island,
Yeah. He is. Yeah. He is
uh,
all in until he sees that
until
point.
that,
Yeah.
and then we see why later on.
Yeah, and we have a point brought up here from Gabe. The whole money thing though isn't that the whole reason why Dr. Grant joined? And yes
To
and
an
no.
extent, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The money. So okay, he the money was to fund their dig, something they're passionate about,
yeah,
and
and it
that's
was
what
just to
got him
get
on the
them to the
island
park.
to get them to the park. They didn't even know exactly what was going down until they see
Hmm.
the first dinosaurs, so that he kind of used his passions for it to get him on the island. The other guy, he just wanted to be rich, I think,
Yeah, well, and
we'll have a
plus you see the
coupon day.
switch. The other guy, because he is, and that's where you see, I guess, the more money hungry is the lawyer. He
Hmm.
goes in.
Hmm.
Remember, as they're driving, he's like telling him, he's like, if they're not convinced, I'm not convinced. I'm gonna shut you down because my
Hmm.
investors. He's just worried about
Yeah.
his
Yep.
investors that he's representing.
Yep.
He's looking at his dollars from the get go, and so
Hmm.
like they're not worried about it. Yeah, Dr. Grant didn't want to go because they're like, we just found a new skeleton.
Hmm.
You know, we got new bones,
Hmm.
and he's like, I just want you to come. They had no idea.
Yeah.
They weren't being
Hmm.
paid to advertise for it. They were just being
Hmm.
kind of, but like it was more like,
Yeah.
well, I just want
Yeah.
you to get there so then you can advertise if
Hmm.
you approve of it. Where the other
Yes.
guy was like, if my money isn't feeling good about this, I'm out. You
Yeah.
know,
It
and
is.
so I think that's a little reason. So I mean, money's always
Hmm.
in it. There
Oh
always
yeah.
will be.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
the money thing with Dr. Grant in this movie doesn't bother me. The money thing with Dr. Grant bothers me a couple movies later. We'll get to that in a few weeks, though.
yes,
This
yes,
one
we'll
it
get to
doesn't
that.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one doesn't as much. But I think what everyone is really like trying to get to is, Malcolm, everybody except for the lawyer, of course, that it just seems like
Hmm.
Hammond just couldn't understand is this
Hmm.
idea of playing God and
Hmm.
like and thinking that he's going to have complete control over these animals and
Hmm.
that nothing bad is ever going to happen. He's got it all figured out. And I think that was a big thing that they were trying to tell him. It's like, listen, like you can't do this. Like
Hmm.
like we barely understand how nature works right now. How can we
Hmm.
understand how nature worked back then?
Yeah.
and and how can you think you can do this? And he thought he had control. He thought he knew, um, like he was going to do better in the future. Actually, now I think about it, when he was in that room eating all the ice cream before it melted,
Eating ice cream. Yes.
and and so while he was doing that, he was like he did bring up. So I guess I kind of bring back my point from earlier. He did
Hmm.
bring up. He's like, I will make better hires in the future.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
he did kind of bring that up, but
A
still
little
it
bit.
still ended like it was
Hmm.
his, whatever. But
Hmm.
he did bring that up. He's like, and when we have control, and that's
Yeah.
when Sadler had to be like, but you never had control.
You never had. That's the illusion. That's what she
Yeah.
said. That's one of the most powerful parts in the movie where she's just telling him, you have no idea what you have here.
Hmm.
The illusion is still there. The illusion is you think you have control and you do not. Clearly. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah. That's.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that just speaks so much to like, I mean, just humanity in general. There's so many things that we
Hmm.
try to take control of and
Hmm.
that we think we have control and it's falling apart. And we may have people around us saying, like, hey, listen, this isn't going well. Like, you need to go a new
Hmm.
direction. Like, you need to get out of there or change
Hmm.
course or whatever. And we're just
Hmm.
like, nah, I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. And it can apply to any situation that
Oh
you're in,
yeah.
to anybody. And we
Hmm.
think we have so much control, but everyone's like, you have zero control. You're completely losing it. But all we can think about is, this is my idea. I want it to happen. I'm going to make it work. I'm
Hmm.
going to make it work. I'm going to make it work.
Hmm.
And that's the same, thing that Hammond
We
was stuck in.
we as people have been struggling with this since the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
you know and there's a reason why God shut that down. Same reasons, with the theme of this movie, trying to play God, trying to
Hmm.
do something, have too much power, too much, try to have control of something, and you just don't. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
Too
And
powerful.
then you just think that they would learn, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that they would learn or he would catch on. I mean, eventually he did. But the line I loved the most, and I think it was at around this point when Hammond started to get it.
Hmm.
Because I know like he started to get it a little bit when Sadler in that same room said, when she said, people are dying,
Yeah.
like people we love, Alan, Lex, Tim,
Your
and then
grandkids are
so
out there.
yeah, so he starts to like wake up, and
Hmm.
then when he's still trying to justify himself when they
Hmm.
have Malcolm and they're trying to like reroute everything, and
Hmm.
he was just like, and he was just saying, he was like, well, when Disneyland opened, nothing worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's still trying to justify it. And then Malcolm had to tell him, yeah, but
Yes.
the Pirates of the Caribbean didn't start eating the tourist.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I love that part. Yeah, Ian Malcolm is he obnoxious throughout this movie? Yeah, but he is absolutely hilarious.
Oh yeah,
And his humor doesn't stop with the next movie either. But we'll get to
yeah,
that. But yeah, I love that. Like, the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down. They don't eat the tourists.
yeah.
I like that.
But like, which was hilarious, but a hilarious moment that it seemed like okay, now like Hammond was like, okay, flip is switched.
Hmm.
Let's get this done. Let's turn everything on so we can get out of here.
Yeah, trying to
And
get out of
and then that was his focus. He's like, let's do this
here.
so we
Hmm.
can get out of here. The rest of that movie.
And he
Um,
is he's so heartbroken by it. And that's what I
yeah.
love about because that moment, you're right, it switches in him. He just wants to get everybody off the island safe, including his grandkids.
Hmm.
But when they get to the chopper and he looks back at the park, I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that they included that scene, because this is a man who was absolutely broken. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he spent so much of his life creating something like this, and he realized it's done. You
Yeah.
know, and powerful stuff right there.
Yeah. I mean, go back. You see him try and cry, and then like,
Hmm.
and then you even hear the brachiosaurus, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's just kind of like it is. It's his life's work. It's what
Hmm.
he's always because he's also at the core. I mean, you hear it more too when he at that table when he's eating ice cream. The
Hmm.
man's an entertainer.
Hmm.
Like he is put up like a Walt Disney type. Like he
Hmm.
wants to bring families together. He wants to bring smiles to people's
Hmm.
faces. He wants kids to just light up with joy. So the
Hmm.
man is an entertainer and a visionary.
Hmm.
And that's why maybe because he brought up Walt Disney, maybe Walt Disney was his inspiration for
Hmm.
something like this. But he threw everything he had into it. So the fact that so that's what he's trying to understand Hammond a little more. Why he kept trying to justify and trying to say we
Yeah.
can make it work. Better hires. Next time it'll be better. And
Next
it's
time,
just
yeah.
like no, like this is a complete failure. You have to let it drop. And then once he
Hmm.
comes to that realization, being completely broken because his
Hmm.
whole heart, his whole passion was
Hmm.
into that project, into that park.
Yeah. He had pure motives. He really did. He's
Hmm.
not the bad guy here. He may have done something he
No,
probably shouldn't have, but he's not the bad guy.
no, he's definitely not the bad guy. And but just even showing that you can have the purest of intentions and it just might not work out. It may
Hmm.
be a great idea on paper, but in
Hmm.
an application, it's just not going to
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
And so, talk about a good life lesson there too. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Just because you can't do something doesn't mean you should. You
yeah,
know. Oh man.
yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Malcolm.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
But it is,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of stuff, and that's where like, sometimes, um, there's just a lot of movies out there. Usually, when movies don't work, they're usually not this deep with their themes.
Mm-mm.
But it goes back to like you said, like we said earlier, not a single line is wasted, not a
Mm-hmm.
single environment scene is wasted. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of thought. I mean, just as much heart that we just talked about Hammond. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Spielberg had just as much heart into this
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Now I know it's based off a book and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, but they still had to. We all know, book adaptations don't always work.
No, they don't.
So
No.
I think you saw that same kind of heart and care go into this movie as well.
Hmm. Yeah. And did you know fun fact about Spielberg, he made this and Schindler's List around at the same time. He's
Really?
making, yep. So he
Hmm.
made, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but basically two masterpieces he made simultaneously.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah,
fun
I
fact
did not
about
know.
Spielberg fun facts.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
yeah.
So I know that we kind of want to talk about here is just we hit on it a little bit earlier, but just the importance of like mixing robotics and
Hmm.
CGI and stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so just in case that Hollywood executive happens to stumble upon our video, we have
Yeah.
got some good thoughts for you, sir.
Yes. Yes.
So
So,
Gary, do you want to start it? Do you want me to go ahead?
oh, you talking about CGI versus
Yeah, CGI and
practical?
robotics and
Yeah,
yeah.
practical is always better. This movie is the reason why it up in the T Rex, all the dinosaurs, and then the raptor scenes.
Hmm.
They're still terrifying to this day. That scene in the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
You're I've seen it 100 times. And I'm still just like scared for these kids, even though they annoy me. I
Yeah.
don't want them to get taken by the raptors because in this like you're not watching it and you're not thinking, oh, that's fake. It doesn't take you out of the movie.
Mm-mm.
And CGI, as much as we have progressed, as technology and have gotten better at making things, it still doesn't look quite as good.
Hmm.
And part of the reason why this movie holds up so well, we said it earlier, is you don't have that moment where you're taken out, where oh, it looks fake.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Jaws. It's probably my favorite movie of all time. There's even, in
Yeah.
that movie, people to this day say, "Oh, it looks fake." Well, okay, whatever. It was 1970
Yeah.
something, but at the same time, there's something to be said about something that is actually real, something that you know the people making this movie cared so much about it, they were going to take spend as much time on every little detail as possible. You
Hmm.
know, and as someone, as I'm watching movies like this, I appreciate that. It makes me appreciate it even more.
Hmm. And I even think it helped the actors too, to like not have to react to nothing.
Hmm.
And for those who can do that and do it well, like kudos to them. That's great acting.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I just think it like even helps it. Like when you see terror, it's almost like real terror because they
Hmm.
have this robot, like this giant T Rex robot in their face,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
especially with bringing that up, especially I'm sure you've heard the stories, Gary, like Rexy as they call it. like would
Mhm.
malfunction all the time. And
Mhm.
so a guy had to like literally climb into his mouth and like go
Mhm.
inside and like work on him. And then if it happened to malfunction or someone would accidentally turn it on, like the
Mhm.
guy would just get crushed by the robotics in there.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
so people like the actors, everyone on set like knew this. So
Mhm.
like yeah, like honestly, they probably actually could have died if this thing malfunctioned and did something crazy. And
Oh
so
yeah.
you can still see some like actual real terror to it.
Mhm.
But I just think like that aspect of it, it just makes it makes the CGI scenes more believable when you have a lot more
Yeah.
robotics. Because
Yep.
like it's like when you have like you can tell like when it's robotics and CG, like obviously when the T Rex stands there and is like
Mhm.
looking for him and they're in front of the car and stuff.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, obviously, okay, yeah, that's the robot. But then, but being able to see that when the T Rex is chasing the Jeep, and we have the iconic
Mhm.
rearview mirror scene,
Mhm. Must go
eh,
faster. Must
yeah,
go
must
faster.
go faster. But it makes that whole thing more believable
Mhm.
because, like, yes, you know that robot's not running, you know it's
Mhm.
CG, but it looks so much better. And mind
Mhm.
you, the lighting and stuff, because they did more stuff at night or whatever, it makes it look a whole
Mhm.
lot better.
Mhm.
And so it makes it just more believable to where you're just because where you having the mix of that CGI and robotics, it's like okay, it blends a whole lot easier. Which I
Mhm.
think this movie did better than most of the sequels.
Yeah.
They did a better of blending the two.
Mhm. Yep. And it looks great, and it's just a spectacular looking movie. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and you can tell. So, and I think the problem with some of the sequels are you can tell that um, maybe not as much attention to detail went into it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe overuse of CGI, and just rushing to get a sequel out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where this movie they took their time, and that's what I appreciate about Spielberg so much. Is majority of his movies he takes the time. You know, he
Yeah.
filmed once again. I'm sorry, I keep going back to. It, I just love it so much, but he filmed Jaws in the Atlantic Ocean. You know,
Yeah.
and and just that attention to detail is just very appreciative. You
Yeah.
know.
And doing a lot of stuff on location helps a
Hmm.
lot. Like I know he had his
Hmm.
sets and stuff for this one and the second one. He had sets built and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But even then, having a set built, is better
Hmm.
than sitting in a giant green room.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
and I know like some of you may be thinking, really, Efren, you're saying that. Like I see your Marvel posters in the background. Isn't that all Marvel movies? We'll get to that another day.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah.
but the thing is, it's
Yeah.
like there's just something to be said to actual sets
Hmm.
and um, and just filming on location stuff that's
Hmm.
real. Like if you
Hmm.
really want something like this, for instance, to be believable, you need as
Hmm.
much real as you can get into the
Indeed.
movie. Don't try
Hmm.
to just CGI the whole thing.
No. No. Yeah. It really felt. I mean, you're transported into that theme park. You know,
Hmm.
everything about it's iconic, and and that's one of the biggest reasons why.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because they're trying to make it seem like Jurassic Park is real today.
Hmm.
And so if you're going to make it real today, then environments, everything has to be real where you're at.
Hmm.
Sets have to be real. You can't just,
Hmm.
just go in and assume like, I brought up the whole Marvel thing, but the reason why I think it works more CGI stuff for Marvel is just because like, yeah, you have New York and stuff, but you also have random places like Wakanda that doesn't exist. Like you're not placing
Yeah.
it like it's
No.
placed in the real world, but it's not really
Hmm.
placed in the real world.
No.
So like,
No. Yeah.
so like, so like, there's just something there that is
Hmm.
like you can't make. I mean, you could make real sets to make it look better, but you're not trying to
Hmm.
sell it like this thing is real today. Where
No.
Jurassic Park,
No.
they had to sell it. This thing is real
Hmm.
today.
Yep. Yep. Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So,
So
are we ready for our Hail Marys for
I think we are.
this
I
movie?
think we are ready for our Hail Marys,
All right.
um, and this is what we're gonna give. We're gonna do this for the entire
Hmm.
franchise. We'll give our
Hmm.
Hail Marys through them, and
Hmm.
I know they're not official reviews. I know they're deep dives, but we still got to do this.
Deep dive. Yeah.
So, um, yeah.
All
So I'll
right.
get. I guess I'll go ahead and go and Wakanda forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sir.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's a bit.
Thank you, Dens. Yeah. There you go. There go the kids again. But I know for me, going back, watching as a kid, watching as an adult, I can still watch it today. I've watched it twice over the summer already, and I
Hmm.
was just like, man, like this movie. Yeah, we have a little issues and stuff with it,
Hmm.
but I don't think it's enough really to knock it. To me, this is just a cinematic masterpiece that goes
Hmm.
down in history. I have to give it 5 Hail Marys. That's
Yep.
what I got to give it. I don't think I can give it anything less.
Same. Yep. Might as well keep that graphic up because I'm going 5 as well. This
All
movie
right.
is a masterpiece. I've shared my little bit of nitpicks with it, but everything about this movie is
Hmm.
iconic, epic. What we've already talked about, the dialogue, the practicalness of it. There's a monkey flying behind my
Yeah,
head.
I love it.
But yeah, five Hail Marys, indeed.
Hmm.
I love this movie. I watch it several times a year. And yeah,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, five Hail
And for those
Marys.
of you who've been watching us for a while and seen our reviews, giving something five Hail Marys isn't something we do all the time.
No,
So,
no.
so at the same time, you might kind of know what to expect through the rest of this series. but but yeah, five Hail Marys. This
Yeah.
this thing is just great, and
Mhm.
I just love this movie. Um, I'm
Everything
pretty
about it.
sure I'll have to ask film students that we know,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure this is a movie they'll probably have to watch and study.
Yeah,
I know I
yeah.
did when we did the theology and film class in college,
Hmm.
so I had to for this movie. I'm sure it's
Hmm.
continued to be studied because it's just one of those movies. It's just a
Oh yeah.
masterpiece and
From
needs to be
like I said, the
studied.
dialogue, the pacing, the way it looks, the
Yep.
action scenes, just the score.
Yeah.
Yep, masterpiece.
Yeah. Everything about it just a masterpiece. So Gary, we did have something for you here. I don't know if you saw it,
Okay.
but it says no, this is off
Oh, okay.
topic, but my cousin is watching and wants
All
Western
right.
Wednesdays back.
So I'm thinking next Wednesday, not this week, but next Wednesday. This Wednesday will be my first time back in the real world.
Yeah.
So I'll be in the office on Wednesday. Let's do next Wednesday. I'll be back with Western Wednesday.
There we
I
go.
think I
Western
have the
Wednesday coming
movie.
back.
I think I have the movie that I'm gonna do. But yeah,
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
So
There you go. So Western Wednesday's coming back. There you go. Um, you have that. You have that coming. So that
my
is
son is
our.
escaping to the backyard.
Oh man.
Yeah. Life
Yeah.
finds a way. The door was locked. He moved the stick in the back of the door and unlocked it, and now he's out.
And now he's gonna look at Laney. That was Laney. It was you.
Yeah, yeah, that was you.
That was you.
He
So
found his treasure.
there
Okay.
we go. So that is our deep dive into Jurassic Park. We're going to continue in this series next week with The Lost World,
The Lost
as we
World.
explained earlier, and just dig into those movies and our thoughts and everything about them, and just to keep doing something fun, something a little bit
Yep.
different, and until we can have some normalcy and get back into theaters. But
Yep.
thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss out on future
Thing.
videos, and
Mhm.
just as always, thank you for joining us.
Yep. All right. See
All
you
right,
guys.
we'll see you guys next time. Bye.